Hi guys, today's video going to be having a cup of tea and making a Gaslands car. So starting with this Hot Wheels car, we are going to sand down the paint to give us more of a layer to put a primer down on. So using a fairly fine grit of sandpaper, going to dip that in water and going to rub everywhere where there is a decal or the glossy paint on it. And the aim here is not to remove all the paint, it's just to give us a rough surface that the primer will adhere to. So then going in with Vallejo surface primer and giving that a nice coating all over. Then realised there were these kind of exhausts coming out of the bonnet, so I trimmed them down. Probably should have done that before I did the priming there. And then grabbing some fairly thin plastic card, we're going to start cutting out armour panels and we're just going to start gluing these all over. If you don't have any plastic card, but you have any spare bases, those will do. And just kind of cutting jagged shapes, straight shapes, and just gluing them anywhere you feel like. Then, with some trimmed pieces of paperclip, going to add some reinforcing bars over the driver's window. And then using a thicker plastic card, we're going to put a kind of bumper on the front. And then we're going to make a little kind of shield on the back. No points for guessing which film that was inspired by. And then with a pin vise, we're going to put some bullet holes all over the armour plating. So yeah, this is definitely easier if you do it before you glue stuff onto the car. And just going all over, one or two on every panel. If you wanted to, you could go in with a smaller drill bit, add some kind of smaller caliber bullet holes. And then, using the edge of a sculpting tool, we are going to scratch some texture into all the panels, kind of ding them up, make it look a bit battered and worn. Then I modelled up some car parts and guns and stuff in Blender and printed them out. Then gluing the bug catcher on top of the engine block, and then just playing around with the positioning of the guns and the other parts. So in the end I decided to only go with the one on the bonnet because I felt it was a bit overkill, just adding them everywhere. And when you're happy with where the parts are, just glue them on with a bit more super glue. Then giving everything another coat of the black primer. You have to be a little bit careful with the kind of metal chassis because it will easily scratch you off. I mean, no primers will really adhere to it very well. So once the primer is cured, we're going to go in and give the whole thing a coat of kind of dark silvery metal paint. Then going in with a dark red colour, almost a brown, and we're going to give a base coat to all the exposed bits of the bodywork that are still present. And don't worry if some of the metal shows through, that will add to the kind of wear and tear on the car. There's going to be a lot of weathering done later that will cover it up as well. After that base coat of kind of reddish browns down, we're going to go over with a brighter red. A slightly watered down paint, so kind of halfway between a paint and a glaze at this point. Paints I'm using are mostly AK Interactive, although I use some P3 Bravatier brass paints later. Again, just going over the exposed bits of the bodywork, so we can see a bit of the car underneath, and build up a contrast with the armour panels that are on. After this, we're going to add a good deal of rust, so give the customary 14 shakes of the paint pot and start putting down a fairly watered down just layer of that orange paint everywhere. And you can go as heavy or as light with this bit as you want. I want it to be quite heavily rusted, so I'm going to go quite heavy with all this. That's picking out some details on the gun with a kind of military green. And now we want to give edge highlights using a brighter silver colour. In this case I was using beryllium, which is a slightly blue tint, but I found it worked pretty well and gave a little bit of contrast with the orange. So you just want to use the edge of the brush and hit all the edges, as well as going in and hitting any of the bullet holes, so they have that kind of shinier metal showing through where there has been a bit of damage to it. Also hit the front spikes. This was just some more plastic art I added on that I had left over from cutting some of the armor panels. Thought it would look good on the bonnet. And then we're going to add some kind of grime, dirt and dust to the wheels. So getting some Vallejo ground texture paste, we're going to give that a coating all over the tyres, as well as on these sides where the dirt has been kicked up onto the bodywork. Go for that kind of typical desert wasteland apocalypse vibes, where nothing is going to be clean for very long. And again, being a little bit careful here, because where the paint is just on the metallic kind of body of the car underneath, that is going to be quite easy to scrape off with a metal tool. So yeah, here we have the weathered car, just needs a bit more paint on it. And if it bothers you, just make sure all the wheels are still turning. If you don't want them to turn, then super glue them before doing any painting at all. Be a lot easier. Then finally going in with the tan colour, just going to hit all the dirt and using the kind of natural undercolour of the earth texture. So there's not really a point undercoating that again. And there we have it, the finished car. Thanks for watching guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you next time.